Hi, my name is Nicole Jackmo, and I'm here with Clay McLeod Chapman, the author of Whisper Down the Lane, which is coming from Quirk Books in April 2021. I have my copy too. Hi,
Yay!
Clay. Thanks so much for joining us. I am excited to talk more about Whisper Down the Lane, but first, I'd love to hear a little bit more about you.
Well, first off, thank you very much for doing this. Thanks for having me out in this virtual landscape. My name's Clay, and I am originally from Virginia, born in Roanoke, raised in Richmond, but now I live in Brooklyn. New York has been home for probably like a little over 20 years now. And I've been really, really lucky to write pretty much my whole life. I love writing short stories, short fiction, which led to novels, which led to film, which led to comic books, which led to musicals. I mean, you name it. I've at least tried it and failed miserably at least once, if not twice. But writing has been something that has been really, really important to me. Telling stories, kind of grew up around that campfire, and having the oral tradition kind of be a part of my kind of creative DNA from a really, really young age. And it has, hopefully kind of transposed itself onto the page, which is where a lot of my kind of storytelling centers around. Like I love the idea of kind of spinning a yarn.
Yeah, I mean, it shows in the remaking for sure. I mean, you even open your first horror novel, the remaking opens with a campfire scene. So I think that's really apropos. But tell us a little bit about Whisper Down the Lane.
Whew, here we go. Whisper Down the Lane is it's really kind of intriguing to me because it's like almost a personal story. Like I wanted to come from a place when I started to kind of embark upon the writing of this novel. I'm a dad, and fatherhood became a very kind of pertinent, kind of palpable, terrifying thing for me. I guess I should say that Whisper Down the Lane is about, it kind of centers itself around the Satanic Panic Era of the 80s. I am a child of the 80s. I grew up in the 80s. I was raised by a television set. It was kind of the ground noise, or the kind of white noise in the background of my upbringing, where you never get into vans, stranger danger. That was there in our kind of neighborhood lifestyle. But I wanted to kind of tell a story that kind of revolved around that kind of paranoia and panic of that time, where we have a little boy named Sean, and Sean gets kind of caught in a white lie, and that white lie kind of ripples out and ripples out and ripples out until it kind of consumes the community that he lives in, and his family and his friends and his classmates and the people and the teachers that teach at his school. And it, in essence, kind of kickstarts this massive panic of that era. Now, fast forward 30 years later to a man named Richard, and Richard basically has no past. His childhood is a bit of a empty blank slate. But certain things are kind of starting to happen in his adult life now that he's a father. He's newly married. He teaches at a school. He's an art teacher, and certain kind of scary, slightly terrifying, unnerving things begin to happen around him. And I don't think it's giving away too much to say that the stories of Sean and the stories of Richard start to kind of intersect in this strange satanic panic helix of paranoia and spookiness. I don't want to give away too much beyond that, but we'll see the two parallel narratives kind of intertwine with one another until they maybe smash into one another. But yeah, that's Whisper Down the Lane in my most eloquent way to describe it.
That was a great description of it. It really is fascinating. So you talk about the Satanic Panic and how, you grew up in this era. Can you talk a little bit about some of the research you did? Because you have the child version of what you grew up around, but I'm sure you had to fill in the blanks.
Yeah. I mean, having grown up in that period, it was always kind of there, kind of in the background or on television. But when it came time to kind of sit down and kind of properly explore the era and kind of revisit it as an adult, I mean, I stacked up on all the kind of books that I could find of the period that kind of explored the period. Did a deep dive thanks to the library, and I mean, luckily there are a lot of books kind of written about this period. Primarily, the one that kind of served as my big go-to was this book called "We Believe the Children," and it was by this fellow by the name of Richard Beck. He came out in like 2015. It's an amazing book, exhaustive, like no stone is left unturned, but it really kind of explores the era and how this could happen. You know, someone who reads Whisper Down the Lane, they might say, this couldn't happen. This is not true. There's no way that people would actually do this stuff. But it's true. This really happened. And I think it's books like We Believe the Children, which is nonfiction.
Yeah.
It basically kind of lays down the kind of groundwork, the kind of moral fabric of the period, and says, this is how it happened, and this is why it happened. You know, there are other books that kind of came out at the time. There's a book properly called Satanic Panic by this guy, Jeffrey Victor. This is an amazing book by Lawrence Wright called Remembering Satan. You know, truth is always going to be stranger than fiction. And these books will prove that, like, you know, I could make up, you know, whip up these kind of flights of fancy, but, you know, when you read these nonfiction books, it says, nope, this stuff really happened. And then there's books like Michelle Remembers, which I don't know if you're familiar with this book. It kind of borders on, you know, it's published as nonfiction. And I think there are many advocates who will still say it's nonfiction, but, you know, it kind of, it kickstarted a lot of this, the panic of the era. And it was by Michelle Smith and Lawrence Pasdar. I think I'm saying that right, Lawrence Pasdar. And it is a artifact of the era, and I would wholeheartedly recommend Michelle Remembers. And then, you know, I could go on and on and on, but, you know, the last one that I feel like really needs to get its due is Rosemary's Baby. I am a huge Ira Levin fan, and this book kind of served as my like spirit animal, my literary spirit animal, I guess.
Okay.
I needed to pay homage to the Godfather, Mr. Levin.
Nice. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of that with us. Whisper Down the Lane will be out in April. Have a great day and enjoy Midwinter ALA Virtual.
Thanks so much for having me.